Podcasters Roundtable round 113. Have podcasts become more popular than blogs? It's just one of the stories, but usually the first main story I lead off with, we talk about, but we're going to wait for Daniel. So we're going to create a little space here. We have plenty of good stories, awesome roundtablers, a new roundtable. We're going to meet them in a second. We're like 7 subscribers away from 500 on YouTube. So if you're watching the live stream of this and you're not subbed, definitely Podcasters Roundtable. Wait, youtube.com/Podcasters Roundtable. Hit the sub and then hit that little bell. I learned a little bit more today about notifications and how that works. Is it true that YouTube won't show everyone that asks for notifications? Yes, that's true, because they find out if they show all of them, more people unsubscribe than stay subscribed. So anyways, it's a messy world. Subscribe. Hopefully we'll see you in the live one. And yeah, numbers don't matter, and we don't care. But 500 is really cool, so let's just do that.
Did you say numbers don't matter? Did you just say numbers don't matter?
Ultimately, numbers don't matter. Do they matter to you, Paul?
Wrong show, buddy. I just subscribed, by the way. So happy 493.
There you go. 494, Paul.
Well, there we go.
495. We're shooting it up. See this? We're gaming our own system here. I love it. All right. Hey, let's meet the roundtable. David Jackson, co-host. Welcome back, buddy.
Yes, Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting.com.
I love that. All right. Hey, returning roundtabler, Paul Colligan. Welcome back.
Hey, thank you for having me back.
All right. Where can we find you, Paul? Your podcast?
Thepodcastreport.com.
All right. Another podcast about podcasting. We love it. We're stacked here. The books are stacked. And new roundtabler, Jonathan, welcome to your first roundtable.
Or second. I'm counting for the t-shirt.
I blew it. I didn't even know you. You know what? That's my fault, because what I usually do before I bring on the extra guest is search the site. That's one reason it's great to have a website with names on it, is I can search. So, you sneaked one in. All right. Well, welcome back, Jonathan.
Thank you. Yeah. 8 more to go, and then I get that t-shirt.
That's right. That's right. It's a running meme. I don't count on it, but yeah, you're getting closer. We got to watch out. Paul's not going to be able to come back pretty soon. All right. Let's find some stories that we don't, that we want to wait. I'm sorry, that we don't need Daniel for, because we definitely do this podcast more popular than blogs. Actually, is that the one? Yeah, Daniel liked that one too. So, Dave, did you end up finding any stories? Because I'll lead off here. I'll lead off. Dave, right. I don't know if you have anything, but I'll lead off. I just saw this headline, and I thought this was perfect for Paul. Actually, it's perfect for Dave, too, because he's the person in a box podcaster. Donating to podcasts via Amazon Alexa smart speaker. I'm not a huge smart speaker fan for podcasts, but as another distribution point, fine, add it to the list. I'm cool with that. I don't think it's going to be huge. My opinion doesn't matter there. What about donating to podcasts via Amazon Alexa? Do you think that would actually, is this something we need? Is this something that you think would actually spur on money to podcasters? Is this a good monetization technique? What do you think about that? I think they're working on it, by the way, is the story.
Yeah. First of all, it
does not exist. Does not exist. Don't yell at your device trying to donate to the show, or get used to it. Yeah, train yourself. Donate to the Podcasters Roundtable.
I can now see friends coming to your house and be like, "Hey, donate to this random podcast."
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's similar to my idea, Dave. I wanted you to do the Teen Wolf surfing thing on top of a van, just blaring out, "Alexa, play School of Podcasting."
Yeah,
just activate everyone.
Well, that's really good. That's I like that. Wait now. Ooh, talk about going viral.
I think it was Todd Cochran who has his car sends out a Bluetooth signal to people.
Oh,
yeah, he has these little pods buried around his city, so that if you're at a stoplight, it somehow displays something. It's weird.
What? Wow.
Yeah,
that sounds like a Dave Jackson hack to me.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, as somebody who forgot to silence his phone, I'm surprised that. Like, for me, I love my woman in the tube. I'm not sure I trust, in the same way that I'm not sure I trust Facebook. You know, I give them a lot of information, but I don't give them banking information. I'm not sure I'm ready to give Jeff Bezos my credit card number.
Oh,
dude,
I mean, he already has it. Wait a minute.
Get your Alexa. You gave.
Well, that's true, but I mean dude,
he has your credit card.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
but I guess the whole thing of, like, I don't know. It just seems weird to just trust that.
Wait a minute. You've already trusted.
Yeah, I'm going to say he's already got it. I have a one-click buy. So it's just, like, a matter of
saying, I'm not sure about sleeping with my wife.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
It's
I guess
yeah,
I
it's,
just
that's definitely not a hurdle. I don't think. I do
Right.
think anything made easier will become more abundant, right? So I think it's very easy when someone makes it easy to donate. I've seen call outs on Twitter, and they've gotten that. I feel like they've gotten the threshold to donate pretty down pretty easily. Like I've clicked like more than 2 clicks, said give me $5, give $5, and it was done. So I could see, especially if it happens in real time where you're listening and they're like, hey, if you want to help the show, just give $1. You can literally just tell it right now. You know,
because you think about all that stuff that needs any kind of login name and password, you're gonna have to do on your phone anyway in the what's her name app. So, and that's gonna then tie to some sort of skill. So there's gonna be some sort of security in there, and it's just as ready to be hacked as anything else. So
what I'm trying to really ask here is, are we all going to be rich very soon?
Of course.
With people just shouting at their no, of course not. I think it always adds up a little bit at a time, right? And this being one thing that could be easier, I think it's cool. I mean, again, making anything easier, helps.
Well,
yeah. Someone in chat
is making a bad idea easier.
You think that's a bad idea?
Yeah, I think so.
Did you have a donation button on your website ever, Paul? PayPal?
Well, I did at one point, and then I grew up. It's not the model for what I'm doing, you know, and I think what happens is many times we'll think, okay, I got 10 options for monetizing my show, and we do all 10. And the problem is because someone has a choice of 10 options, they pick none of them. But if you actually picked one option, that one option could do more than the 10 options if there was the choice. And you know, you got to think it through.
No, I like it. This is exactly what I'm looking for. So before we hit record or live, whatever, I was telling, you know, I was telling everyone, we're doing news stories. You know, we're talking about S-Town getting sued. I'm like, I don't really care about the details of that. Is there something we can extract for podcasters?
Right.
And this is it. I think Paul's pulled out the essence here.
Yep.
You know, is it a good idea? And, you know, well, Paul, does that mean you only ask people to subscribe on iTunes? Oh, sorry, Apple Podcast. What about variety, right? The variety of choice is an interesting concept.
Right. Well, let's talk about that one. I don't tell people to subscribe anymore on 5 different platforms. I tell them to go to thepodcastreport.com/subscribe for more. That gives them the choices.
And you don't think, I mean, do you think it's because they see their choice, it's okay to have a bunch of choices, right?
Well, but the thing is, the choice isn't the choice. See, now the choice is, am I subscribing or am I not subscribing, as opposed to what platform do I like? You know, I remember once sitting in a hotel room trying to crack this Stitcher nut, listening to a podcast about podcasts where the podcaster was telling me that only idiots listen to Stitcher. You know, and on Stitcher, you know, which was absolutely hilarious.
Which one of us was that?
It wasn't. No one here in the room. And so you have to think about the audience that you're dealing with, and all, you know, I'm the only person who would put up with being insulted for listening to Stitcher. You know, most people go, fine, screw you, I don't need to listen to your show. You know, and the thing is, if I give you 38 options, first of all, what was option number 17 again? That type of thing, that puts you in a bad place. And I would just say, what's the one thing you want your customer to do? You know, and then how do you make it as easy as is humanly possible? And if you want them to donate, you know, that is a fine model. It's worked for PBS. It's worked for everybody throughout the years. It's a fine model. But if you want them to donate, then you make it as easy as is humanly possible. Now, maybe we take my subscribe model. Maybe you have a donate page, and on the donate page, Patreon, PayPal, you know, Alexa or whatnot. But taking that one, Dave's reaction, even though Dave bought a thing about not wanting to give the credit card number, I mean, there's all these emotions that pop up that's just going to cause all these question marks, and they're not going to take the action.
Yeah, my thought too is that, back to my thing, is I'm not overly impressed with pickup on smart speakers. Maybe it's amazing, whatever. You're asking a very small percentage of your audience to do something, right? So if you are going to be picky about those call to actions, and you're going to cater to the less than 1%.
Bingo.
Maybe not a good idea.
Bingo.
Awesome. Hey, I like it. See, headline of the story. We didn't have to dig deep. We pulled out a lot. That was enjoyable. All right, thanks. Let's see. Who's up? Dave?
Yeah, heard about this on Rob Greenlee's Spreaker show, and I guess this came out today or yesterday. Our good friends over at Edison Research came out with a report on smart speakers. And basically the thing I thought was interesting is they asked people, how do you listen to audio? And number 4 on the list is now AM FM radio. And I don't know why I thought it would be higher, but it's like number 1 was smartphone, number 2 was smart speaker, and number 3 was smartphone plugged into a smart speaker. And then you got to AM FM. And then way down there at the bottom, number 5 was computer or laptop. So if you think people are sitting at a computer listening to audio, anywhere from, and they have 2 groups. It was kind of where they had first adopters, and then they had the latest batch of people. So every time they gave out a number, they gave you 2. So it was somewhere between 6 and 9% are people listening on a computer. So if you're thinking somebody, they can just sit there and click on it, like, no, they're listening on their phone. The days of listening on a computer are long behind it. So, and they just point out that like people now have, it's 27% have 3 or more smart speakers in their house now. So it's not a matter of do you have one, it's how many do you have. And so that number has gone up quite a bit over the years. So I think it's just, and they mentioned how, like, in the past, people were, they're doing things, they're playing with skills and things like that. And now people are doing it more for security and cameras and, locking and I know for me, I have great nieces and nephews. They love her because they ask her to tell stories and jokes. It's a great babysitter. And,
I guess if you have one of these, the term skills is not bad, but I find that to be such a barrier.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean? I'm so confused. I don't even want to figure it out. I'm like, what do you mean a skill? Add a skill. Just a side note.
The other thing is more people are calling podcasts directly from the smart speaker, where it used to be they were, dialing in a phone. Now they're like, nope, because it used to be they would start their phone, connect it to the smart speaker, and now they're just going right to the smart speaker. So I don't know if that's via TuneIn or their own skill or what's going on, but more and more people are doing that. So it's just a case where here's a device made to, it's kind of an audio device, and more people are buying them, and hence we're going to get some trickle down from that. I don't know that we're going to see a huge, but I think the report said people are listening to a smart speaker like 2 hours a day. Most of that is for like news and current events, but a lot of podcasts that are news and current events. So I just saw that and was like, well, here's another trickle, another door, things coming in.
I think it's important to ask, and I think this is, Edison's been kind of hinting that this is what they're going to do at Movement next week, is you need to ask where the next audience member is going to come from. And there are those in the community who believe the next audience member is going to come as soon as Google fixes something, which presupposes that Android users who there's millions of Android users out there who have not been able to figure out how to listen to a podcast, who finally can now that Google has produced an app. You got to ask, where's the next person going to come from? And the next person is going to come from somebody who wants content, who realizes the value of said content. They might not know what the word podcast means at all. And this is an argument for changing the word. This is an argument for where the next audience is. And, I'm going on a trip, and I'm actually giving my folks one of those girls in a tube with, actually, they're getting the video version because it's an easy way for me to do a video phone call with them. And they're the potential listener for the next show. And the thing is, I can't find any potential next listener source that is 1/3 the size of the smart speaker. So I know the hesitance to, I'm not seeing any big blip right now. That's true. Numbers don't lie. Big fan of the numbers. But if you don't, our next listeners are coming from smart speakers. That's where they're coming from. And so we got to optimize for them. My take.
I think, the Google thing, I think the next listener also is someone who doesn't know they maybe want a podcast.
Exactly.
But I mean, and I think Google should be able to help a little bit in that, saying, surfacing podcasts, saying you're looking for this topic.
Yeah.
Guess what? There's a whole podcast on
Oh
this
yeah,
topic,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. When Google actually integrates searching for a topic and that appears in search results, that'll be great. But Google promises a lot of things, you know, and Google kills a lot of things.
They do.
And you know, I'm tired of press releases. You know, I want to start testing product.
Well, is it the app that they have or in the browser? Is that
Well,
is it
debate for
surfacing
Howard whether or
podcast?
not that's embedded. Sorry,
Huh? Is it doing it yet? Do we know, Dave?
no, it's not yet.
It's not
No.
surfacing podcasts. It will find a podcast if you search for the podcast.
Right, but results are not showing up
Right.
yet.
And
And Google could turn it on. Google
Yeah.
could turn it on tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or Google could turn it on in 2030.
Right.
You know, and we just don't know. The cool thing is there are a gazillion smart speakers in people's homes right now. So, you know, if Google changes the game past the press release stage, then it changes our game. But until then, I'm going for the smart speaker.
Yeah, I'm looking at my stats right now in Libsyn. I can see where I've had so far this year 181 plays of the School of Podcasting on The Woman in the Tube, which is a very, very, very small percentage of my overall number.
Right. And again, that's fine. And that's actually good, right? It's maybe audience that wasn't there before. Going back to the next question, using a call to action to those people might not be the best idea, but we certainly want to reach those people. Right.
Yeah. And that's the other key ingredient here. I made a video for it showing it off, but I never talk about it. I'm always talking about, you know, Apple and Google. I don't really say, oh, by the way, I'm also, if you have a woman in the tube, tell her to enable the School of Podcasting. So you know, if I gave that a little more love, I might get that number up a little bit.
I can tell you, I did not expect to spend the first 20 minutes of the show on smart speakers. So, hey,
My only
maybe this-
question on smart speakers is your topic general enough for the entire house? Like some of the stuff I listen to, I would not want the entire house to listen to because it's.
I don't think people listen to podcasts together in the first place, almost regardless of it. That's one of my main reasons why I don't think it's going to be huge. But so good point. I don't know. My wife and I listen to the same podcast. I do not want to listen to it when she does. She's either in a different place or not ready to listen to it when I am. So even then, we're not listening together.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be a huge deal. I could see people walking in going, what are you listening to? And they go, oh, well, it's the Jamie and Frank show. And they go, what is that? But I don't think we're going back to 1930. Come on, children, let's gather around and listen to, you know, it's time to listen to Ray.
Hey, kids, come on. It's Podcast Roundtable Day. Hey. I don't know how to do old-timey radio voice, clearly. I'm digital only, people. It's no analog here. All right, well, hey.
Can we jump to my story next? Because it actually transitions off of this one perfectly.
That's the way we do it here.
There we go. Perfectly. Like you planned it, my friend. So I found a Reddit posting about somebody who boosted a Facebook post to promote his podcast. And here is his results. And there's a couple of levels to this. And there's a couple of take homes from this. The next audience we're going to pay for. We're either going to pay for them with our time or we're going to pay for them with our money. And the first thing we need to do is what's really interesting here is if I can get 20 cents a download, you know, if I can buy audience members for 15 cents, I win. You know, and it's not a, you know, it's not a slave labor, Fiverr type of world, but it just basically takes money to reach a certain audience and to get them to click. So I've been buying audience members for customers lately. And the best way to do that right now, and here's Paul's hack of the week is Overcast. The model inside of Overcast for buying an audience is fantastic.
Yeah, it's still the best.
Right now,
yeah.
You know, I spent one customer, I spent $650 to get 180 subscribers. Another one, I spent $675 to get 186 subscribers. Another, I spent $650 to get 192, and another, I spent $625 to get 129.
That's $6.25.
No, $650. Very targeted audience.
Okay, we're not talking about 15 cents.
No.
Okay,
well, no, exactly. You know, and that's the thing, and that's why this whole idea that so basically, it's about $3.50 for me to buy an audience member. Now, for my clients,
$3.50.
$3.50. Yeah, for my audience or for my clients, they make 4 or 5 times that per listener, so they're thrilled to spend that. One client, I actually said, "Hey, here are the results of the test. When do you want me to turn it back on?" And his response was, "Why the hell did you turn it off?"
Right.
You know, and so the next level is buying customers. And so anybody who tracks that is absolutely fascinating to me, and I think it's really interesting. And so I really love this report. The thing that was interesting about this report was this particular person boosted a Facebook post, and he got all sorts of really interesting likes and follows and comments and all those things. But if you look at his stats, what's really interesting is he got very, very, very few clicks to the content. And if you ran the math, he actually paid more per click, several times more per click than I'm paying over at Overcast. And I want the dialogue to begin. I want us to start going, maybe my next customer comes from some money spent, which means maybe my podcast needs to make some more money, and which propagates the whole thing. So I just like the fact that the guy put it out there, put out his numbers, shared it with the world, said what worked, what didn't work. I think more podcasters sharing this type of information with each other is absolutely fantastic.
So do you think, I mean, I will be honest, and I built what I would say is a good audience. I don't know if I'd call it an audience, following on Facebook, and I just don't use it because they don't show it. It is pay to play. And it's just, it really just stops me from doing it. And so I am curious, for business, this is fantastic. If your show is has a business model, are hobbyists or people who are just passionate, are they sort of out of luck, or it's just going to be harder than people who are going to spend money?
Let's talk the pure hobbyist, okay? Dave, you deal with a lot of people in the school of podcasting, okay? I'm going to put a random number out there. The average podcaster seems to spend about $1,000 in equipment between computers and hookups and that kind of stuff, okay? What would make the hobbyist happier? $1,000 worth of equipment and 3 listeners, or $100 worth of equipment and 200 listeners?
You would think more listeners, but I wonder. I see so many people get hung up on the tech.
Well, we're in a bubble. We enjoy the gear,
right? Well, absolutely, and there's nothing wrong with that. But buying a customer, we should think about buying a customer the same way we think about buying a piece of tech or about buying something else.
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't know that hobbyists, they don't need customers, right? They do want to share, right? There's no return for a lot of, the return is what you want to be heard is heard. I mean, there is a return, right?
But I'm glad he said that, because here's why people will spend $200 on a DBX, because they go from sounding like this to sounding like this. And all of a sudden they're like, "Ooh, I can spend $200 and instantly make a difference." Ray's like, "You're ruining my audio." Whereas if I spend $350 and get a bigger audience, they're going to trickle in probably over a week or so, or however long the ad is. And I'm not sure it's quite as immediate. I don't know. It'd be interesting, but yeah, I'm with Paul. They should think about that. I think one of the places you should look to, if you're going to put ads on something, find a show like yours and sponsor it.
Yeah.
So wait, did I miss? He boosted a post, which I see this all the time. Boost a post. I've heard it can be garbage to boost a post.
Yeah,
like you said, he didn't get traction on the content, but he got links. So what did he get for boosting a post?
Well, he listed everything. He basically, he said, well, first of all, he said the episode he promoted received 458 downloads over the period. Normally it's 328, which means he claims about 120 variables. But the thing is, what's interesting, where I think his math is off, is if you look at his Facebook results, which he gave us a screenshot of the ad, which is just fantastic. He got 109 link clicks. So he got 109 listens for, he got 109 listens for this. Let me see how much he spent. He spent 30 pounds. So he spent 30 pounds and got 109 listens, which means he basically paid £3 per listen, which means he paid $5 per listen. I'm getting subscribers, not just listens, for $3.50. And I just think we need to start. How much does it cost? And his audience is very different than the audience I was buying for. But and I'm not saying he did bad. Like, I'm saying thank you for sharing the stats.
Yeah.
But he boosted. But all he got, he got a bunch of Facebook fun. But the only number that counts is the 109 link clicks, and we don't even know how far those click to subscribers. And I love that, and that's why the Overcast thing's great, because Overcast, you get how many clicks and you get how many subscribers, which is awesome. Thank you, Overcast. But that's the, so 109 listens. What does that convert to? Can we take our iTunes stats and look at what our subscription rate is? Is that maybe how we figure this out? But man, it seems like 30 pounds for 109 listens is way expensive.
Yeah, if I was doing anything on Facebook, that's the whole thing, is like, what page do you direct people to? And I would make a special page that says, hey, click here to listen to the show. Here's a sample. Click here to subscribe. And here's the directions on how to subscribe, because I just don't want them to go to my website and click, because it's way too easy to go meh and click away.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's a waste of cash.
Adaman 423 in the YouTube chat. We have two chats, podcastraroundtable.com/live. And if you're watching on YouTube, there's chat there. It says, can we please not say the A word? And so we're activating the device all the time. Can they fix this? There's
actually, I have an answer to this. There is a, because what was happening was TV shows.
Yeah.
That were advertising Siri. I'm sorry. The S word, the A word, and the GH word. There's actually a frequency that you can broadcast at that they won't pick up at. So now, so I have an Alexa and a Google Home, I just said it, right next to my TV. And when the ads, it doesn't go off anymore, because if you broadcast at a certain frequency, they're known to tune that out. So
wait,
there
this
is a way
a
around
setting
it.
on the device?
No, as a broadcaster, you can actually, if you do your audio at a certain rate, Alexa doesn't pick it up. I said it again.
Oh, so for people who are weird. Okay. Crazy.
There is in the podcast Back to Work that I love, Dan Benjamin, Merlin Mann, their universal phrase, maybe we can adopt it, is ahoy dingus.
Right. They just need to make it a 2-word activation. You just don't intentionally say, or unintentionally say. Okay, whatever. Anyways, side note. Sorry if we're activating devices. We're trying. You could see how many times Paul just couldn't even do it when we're thinking about it. So it's tough. They need to fix that. Fix it. Let's see. Daniel's here, but I'm not sure. There he is. He's here. All right, cool. Well, let's dig in. That was in the title, so that was cool to cover that. And you both had this, Paul and Daniel. So Daniel, since Paul just did one, podcasts more popular than blogs. What's up with this article?
This was an article that appeared on Search Engine Journal, and it uses Google Trends to say that the popularity of podcasts are increasing compared to the popularity of blogs, which are decreasing. Now, I have to question the data on this. And it's funny, there's this feature in Facebook called Memories that will show you what's happened 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, on today's date in the past. And on this very day that we're recording this, or maybe it was yesterday, Facebook reminded me that 2 years ago, I shared a post from TechCrunch that was about the future of podcasting, and it also used Google Trends data. So what is Google Trends data? It's looking at the volume of searches for a term, and I believe it's compared to the total volume of all other searches. So in their post at searchenginejournal.com, they're making the case that people are searching for blogs less, but they're searching for podcasts more. And so therefore the popularity of podcasts are increasing, whereas the popularity of blogs are decreasing. I have some issues with their source data on that, but Paul also had this article on his list to share. So I'm curious on Paul's thoughts before I share mine.
When you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So, search engine watch, tracking search engine terms as an indicator of what's important in the world, I don't surprise. I think, though, what's interesting, especially for people who run schools of podcasting or who have, I'm sorry, Danny, what's your group's name?
Podcaster Society.
Yeah, or for those who have their own podcaster society, the idea that these numbers are going up is really, really interesting. And what's interesting, I think, for other podcasters is the terms that are going up are related to the production, not necessarily the consumption. And I think this is the key that we really want to look at. There are still a lot of people looking to figure out how to podcast, and that number raises and getting bigger and bigger, and less people are looking at blogs, how to blog and how to do this and how to do that. So I think it's a telling story that not only are we getting more listeners coming, but we're getting more competition. And I know we're podcasters and we don't compete with each other, blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is, it's going up. And the numbers are interesting, and I was surprised by it, and it's kind of cool. And for a guy who has a book called How to Podcast, it's very, very interesting for me. So that was my take on it.
I would say we do compete with each other for audience ears, but I think what I usually try to get across is don't be competitive, right? Or don't fear the other people in your niche. Work with them, right? Because I've always said, like, look, if Dave and I work together, Daniel, Dave, and I, we do a show, we all have shows about podcasting. We mentioned, so do you, Paul. And so someone is going to find out about the podcast report today. They may stop listening to my show, and they might listen. They might take that time and put it in the podcast report, but it goes both ways, and it either balances out, or I'm not worried about it. I'm more interested in getting people, if you're helpful to get people where they want to be, they're going to appreciate that. So yeah, I do think we are in some way in competition. Anyways, that's always a fun topic, but work together would be a lot smarter idea than being, like looking at it as there's only one person can take home a trophy sort of situation.
Agreed.
The problem I have with the article is their source data using Google Trends, because it's constantly relative to many other factors, really. And you could look at Google Trends and come up with the completely wrong conclusion of something. For example, just use Google Trends to search for internet, and you could come up with the conclusion that based on the Google Trends data, the internet is dropping in popularity, because you saw the internet was really searched for a decade or so ago, but more recently, not as many people searching for internet, therefore it's not as popular. I think it's a difference of interest versus popularity, maybe would be the term. Maybe the other term would be usage. Like if you look at the Google Trends data just for podcast or podcasts or some form of that word, you will see the big spike in 2005 when podcast was a word of the year, I think, from dictionary.com and Leo Laporte, all of that. That was the big splash of podcasting, the first, I think, big inflection point of podcasts in 2005. And you look at the search trends data and you see that big spike. You compare that to where things are today, and it looks like, oh, today we're finally just reaching above that initial spike. So it might seem like, oh, podcasts were really popular back in 2005, but they've taken a long time to have this, quote, resurgence, unquote, to get back to that point and then finally exceed that point. But that's not the case. Podcast consumption and awareness has grown constantly ever since 2005. So you have to be really careful when you're looking at the Google Trends data to try and make a case. I mean, some of this, or the author did, and we tweeted back and forth a little bit, he did, to his credit, compare this against some other terms, like not just blog, but also things like WordPress plugin, and saw a decline in people looking for WordPress plugins or WordPress plugin. But I think that's also, again, people may be knowing where to go for things. Like in the early days, maybe people didn't know, oh, WordPress.com is where you get, or .org, sorry, is where you get your WordPress plugins. They didn't know that, so they were searching back then. Now they know WordPress.org is where you get your plugins, so they don't have to search for it as much. So it's just the data I have issues with, but the conclusion, I think, yeah, more people are getting interested in consuming podcasts versus getting interested in consuming blogs. Then again, I think a lot of people read blogs and they don't know they're reading a blog.
Popularity, I don't know if that's I don't know if that's a wrong term. I mean, if something is popular in that moment, it's going to get a lot of searches, right? I mean, the Kardashians are probably a lot more popular now than they were 3 years ago. Whatever, I have no idea. But I don't know if popular is wrong. But yeah, I am interested. What's the core takeaway? More people are searching for podcasts. Does it measure how many people are searching for podcasts now as opposed to 5 years ago?
It's showing it again in relation to total other searches. So it's more like, what is the percentage of global searches compared to last year and the year before? Paul, am I describing this correctly? You're probably more in Google Trends data than I am.
I think the big picture, outside the SEO nerd, is it's not an absolute relative situation, that explains the way the entire world's going. is the big thing. You can't take this in conclusion, the classic causation and correlation issue. Like that's what's at play here. Just because more people, these terms are popping up more doesn't necessarily mean the 8 implications they got from it. Trying to bring it down less nerdy.
I thought when you said it was a result of production as well as consumption, in my brain, I was thinking more people producing podcasts. So there's more people, you said, learning how to podcast, typing in podcast, not necessarily like people looking for podcasts. Or
well remember, and the term, you got when you think about search, if someone types in podcast, that could be someone looking how to podcast, looking for a good podcast, trying to find out how to podcast. There could be 1,000 reasons why somebody types in podcast. But when they type in how to podcast, we know exactly what they're looking for. Or the Podcasters Roundtable podcast, we know exactly what they're looking for. And that's the other thing you have to look at, at search results and zeitgeist and all those things is what did somebody mean? Like Daniel said, so many people type in internet. A lot of people go to Google and they type in hotmail.com because they want to get their hotmail. And
Dave's
so
laughing
you got to look at the grand scheme of things. But if you look at a term by itself, a specific term with a specific audience, the specific thought, and how that does things over time, that can get interesting. Everything else is meh.
I just want to know if they compared the amount of searches for podcast against vidcast, because I think we're ahead.
By people, and how many people search for people you can trust?
We're ahead of vidcast.
Let's switch the name and then just mess up the numbers, and then we won't be as popular as blogs anymore when we become casts on the internet. All right. More popular than blogs, huh? I mean...
And how do you measure popularity, really? Is it based on how many people are searching for, or based on how many people are consuming?
Gotta be consuming, but how do you... That's a hard measurement, right? And... what's consumption mean? Like someone reads a 2-paragraph blog versus listen to an hour podcast. What has more impact? It doesn't matter. I don't know. There's a lot of interesting questions. Are blogs still relevant?
Yes.
Like podcast, you have to separate blogs as a technology through blogs as a format. What Daniel said was dead on. A lot of people read blogs they don't realize they are.
Well, Medium, I would call any article on the internet, on the web, a blog, in my opinion, at this point. If someone's reading, I get a blog, that's a brand that people come to, the blog, but I don't care. If you're reading one article, you're reading a blog. I mean, that gets, that gets weird, but forget those definitions. I guess it's just text. Is text relevant? I mean, you look at Medium and it certainly is. And everyone likes to consume different ways. I mean, is having a blog for your podcast? Is that...
Well, so I recently had a guy named Benjamin Hardy on the show. Benjamin is the #1 writer with a bullet at Medium.
I'm the #1 PDF podcaster, so take that.
I would never doubt that, ever. That's why I'm on your show. And
challenge my claim, Paul.
But the #1 Medium guy, I mean, he's killing it. Medium is massive, and he's writing for it, and he's performing for it, and he's getting results from it. So it's still incredibly valid, incredibly viable. And the thing is, though, it's just the thing about Medium is Medium lets people go to Medium to read Medium articles, and iTunes lets people come to listen to all of our podcasts combined. The having people come do my own blog to watch my own posts, to comment on my own page. I think that's starting to go down.
All right. Well, I thought this might have related to something. I feel like I read something that Jonathan said, but maybe it was somewhere else. Anyways, Jonathan, I thought your Radiotopia story was just from the main takeaway that you wrote in the shared doc was really interesting. Why don't you tell us about?
So I found this on Pod News. Radiotopia has launched a podcast called Everything is Alive. The podcast itself is just a premise of they're interviewing inanimate objects.
They interview inanimate objects. It's fantastic. I haven't even heard.
We have reached the pinnacle of daily interview podcasts.
It's great. I don't even know. I've never heard it, and I know it's already great.
I listened to the first episode, and I felt such a connection to Lewis the Cola Can. But
perfect.
What I loved about it itself in relation to podcasting is the story that it told, the perspective that it told. And that's one thing about the podcasting is either the story you craft or how you present it can really change how it's delivered. I was listening to a podcast, and my perspective actually changed because of what someone said. The way they said it, I connected with them.
Yeah, so because you in the end you say hey, your perspective shifted, and
Yeah.
I think you just explained that, but explain that again. What shifted exactly? Like what made it? What was the change? And you heard someone describing why they believe in something. Is what you said.
It was, I had been trying to figure out why the person would believe their perspective, and I was trying to understand it. They then explained how they got to that perspective. They explained what they're feeling, and I heard it in their voice. It's what text can't describe, but when you hear someone talking, it's that sincerity of the person, and it came through, and that's why this Everything is Alive. They crafted a story that spoke to me in a way that I could not have heard it if I was listening in text.
Yeah, this would be time for Dave's the power of podcasting tagline here, right? And this is a difference, right? We're talking about blogs and relevancy, and some people like to consume via reading, some people like to listen, but they can have that's they always say podcasts are more personal. It's like, well, what does that mean? Well, because you stick an earbud in your ears, that makes something more personal because it's touching you. It's got to be more to it than that, and this is one of those ways, right? Dave.
Well, yeah. I mean, if I go back to the days when I had just a straight website and a newsletter, just a tone of voice takes you from words on a page to wait, there's an actual person back there doing that.
Right. So, I mean, what can we learn from this is a big network, and you said it's a real podcast, right? Because they did say it's like a joke, but it's real. I mean, they're just
remember,
storytelling.
Just because a real podcast is on a big network doesn't mean anything.
No, but I'm saying what implies to me, is that they put major funds behind it.
Right.
Yeah.
So from their perspective, doesn't mean it's good or anything, but it says to me, hey, we're going to put money in this thing and gamble on it. Why? They're just storytelling, right? And I think the format of podcasting allows them to do something different.
Or they're laundering money.
Sure. Bye.
Come on, tell me that doesn't answer a lot of questions about some of these podcast networks.
I think
everybody watch Ozark on Netflix, my friends. Like it'll change your life. So.
That's a great show.
Just a thought. Just talking out loud here.
I'd love to.
Wait a minute. Paul's not going to be in movement next week. Does somebody want his neck? Just a thought.
Have an A1 day.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, interesting podcast. I probably will. What you've done is help give them probably one more download because I'll have to listen to about a can of cola. So,
well, I just subscribed to it because I want to check it out. I'm curious, how can you have a podcast interviewing inanimate objects?
I was thinking the same thing. But the way that they crafted the story and how they talked with it, it was like that sincerity. I mean, they developed such a story and made me think of things. I was like, it's a can of cola.
This has got to be though a play for sponsors, because think of it, a product is going to say, hey, can our product be the guest on your podcast?
Oh, this is the new French made TV. Yeah.
TV. That's a callback. The video days.
Look that up on Wikipedia, kids.
That's it. And the big name show on a big network. Come on. You guys don't remember the awesomeness that was the oh, now I'm forgetting her name. Kathy Lee Gifford podcast on Podcast One back in the day.
Good stuff.
No.
Oh, it was awesome.
Wow. Tiki Bar TV. I don't know. Now I'm just throwing out
Tiki
old
Bar TV.
videos of my favorite. They're the best.
And got Galacticast with Casey McKinnon and Rudy Jackson. I'm going way back to podcast days.
We're getting super down the rabbit hole.
That's right.
For me, also the thing that I've said for a long time, what I want to see from podcasts is anything different. Anything different. Like try something crazy like that. I think I've always said that the most exciting podcasters are like behind us like 10 years who didn't grow up with TV or radio or, copying their favorite thing. Of course, they'll just copy other podcasts. So it may not be much of a revolution, but I want to see what the kids come up with. Hey, kids, get out there, create podcasts, do something new. But hey, anything different. And if there's something to be taken away from it, use it for your own show.
And there are rumors that Louis the Can of Cola is going to do a spin-off show and just do interviews.
It's gonna. Never mind. All right.
As long as it doesn't fizzle
Call
out.
on fire.
And then of course he'll do the true crime podcast.
Right. That's it.
All right, Daniel. We kind of hit on Google Podcast issues that Paul has and things that need to be solved. What's wrong with Google Podcasts still? I think I put that in there, but you have, well, here's one thing that is wrong. You have a story here that you think is wrong with Google Podcasts.
Yeah, I haven't published this yet because I'm just not in a place I can publish much right now. But I have made a tool. I've cracked the code, and I can check what
I knew
RSS
this was
feeds.
I knew this was a promotional play, but I still went with it. I knew Daniel had something.
And will
new.
this tool be available?
Yes, it will eventually be available to the public. Right now, it's just in beta only for members of Podcaster Society, but I will make this available for everyone else to be able to use, unless Google makes their own tool. But I can see what RSS feeds are being used for any search result in Google Podcasts. And I'm surprised by some of the results I'm finding on different podcasts. For one of my own podcasts, for example, there were 2 RSS feeds existing in Google Podcasts. One of them was from Spreaker. Now, don't think that, oh no, Spreaker is hijacking people's RSS feeds just like Castbox was. I'll get to Castbox in a moment. But it was my fault because I was grandfathered into back in the day when Spreaker was the only way to get on iHeartRadio and all of that thing. So I have one of my podcasts being copied over to Spreaker automatically. It's importing the RSS feed. I didn't realize that I still had the RSS feed on Spreaker being published. So therefore, Google indexed it. And thus, there are 2 RSS feeds for my podcast inside of Google Podcasts. I could redirect that one over at Spreaker. So they give all of the tools necessary to either just delete the feed, redirect it, change its options, anything like that.
Did you hear the new media show where they had the Google Podcast product manager on? And he said, like, how many millions?
2 million.
2 million.
This
Now
is
we
the
know.
issue, right? This is the issue. Duplicate feeds.
So that was my error. So I would say to anyone out there, if your media host or whatever tools you're using create an RSS feed for your podcast too, and it's not the RSS feed you intend to be used, just double check to make sure it's not publishing a feed, or just search for your podcast in Google Podcasts if you can. But the other thing I discovered is this whole Castbox fiasco that happened a couple weeks ago, where Castbox, it was discovered by James Cridland that Castbox was leaking or was copying RSS feeds, changing the URLs to their own websites and publishing their mirrored RSS feeds, basically hijacking your audience unintentionally, yeah, but very ignorantly. A lot of those feeds still exist in Google Podcasts. One particular podcaster who used this tool discovered that all of their podcasts show up first, the Castbox feeds, which are all now broken, by the way, not redirected, not told Google to not index them. They're all there. They're ranking higher than his own feeds because of what Castbox did.
Thanks, Castbox.
Yeah.
What was that? Did anyone else go blank there? I went blank. All right. Yeah, Castbox bad. Although, anyways, I won't dig into that because I don't like to spend too much time on services that probably won't be around. And
but it is something to keep in mind, to even just from your own perspective, to think about what are all the possible RSS feeds that could exist for your content, and ensure that only
It's
the ones
tough.
you want.
It's tough because I don't think most people would have. I hear the words, but I don't know what it really means. I don't think most people know what that really means. I don't know where to look. I don't know why I would have more than one, even though I could have more than one. We've heard WordPress can create an issue with multiple feeds, right? That's tough.
And what's the concern? Is the idea that like your stats won't be accurate, or you're going to be getting downloads in the billions that aren't counted because somebody's cached them?
I think it's more people won't get the updated version because
they're tracing a broken feed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's possible. It could be ownership. It could be advertising. It could be stats. It's just not good to have a different feed out there being subscribed to, because then in this case, like with Castbox, for those people who may be subscribed to the Castbox versions of podcasts, now if those feeds are broken, then what? there's nothing set up to migrate those users over. And I don't know yet what Google Podcasts does with a 301 redirect, if it even honors that.
That's what it said. Stargate Pioneer had that Spreaker issue, 301 redirects all around.
Yeah.
So it sounds like maybe that worked, but I don't know for sure. I had a related question actually posted on podcastersroundtable.com, I think from the last round. And it was from Andy from photobizx.com. I don't know. Hi guys. He says, I've submitted my free podcast to Google. So it's podcast, and it's there and working fine, but Google is also displaying his premium feed, which he wants to stop. And he says, do you have any ideas how to go about this? And I guess it's getting the premium feed from the website, and whatever controls on that are not working, I suppose.
Yeah, probably. I'm looking at some of the podcasts.
Is there code you can put in to like block Google from picking up a feed?
There is.
But Google has to obey.
Right.
Well, and they said that
tag.
you can add that Google Play :block. I think that's the code tag. That although it's the Google Play tag, I think it does also affect Google Podcasts. So that is a way to remove your podcast from their directory, as well as a much more technical thing is to set your site, the meta information, the robots.txt and the meta tags for your feed to no index on that particular feed URL, which is a much more technical thing that podcasters shouldn't have to worry about.
Right. But if that's you and you need that solution and it doesn't make sense, write down those words and then give it to someone who it does make sense to. Your host or someone else who can solve that problem for you, so someone who does your website.
What I anticipate is that at some point, Google will allow you to claim your podcast, or there will be an email address or a support channel that you'll be able to say,
right?
Something so you can say, hey, can you remove this one? Or can you make sure this one's redirected or something like that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, definitely don't think that 2 million number is accurate. And this is probably such a huge part of that. It's got to be picking up so many feeds that are essentially duplicate or stuff you don't want your feed to be for your podcast. So that's interesting.
Yeah, this is one of those where I don't think the methodology of submit feed approval by person was really such a bad system. I understand it's cool that they have this algorithm and all, but it's like
everybody's in, but it's doing a great job at scooping up all the podcasts, apparently 2 million of them, but it's a less vetted system. It's getting the junk as it scrapes the street.
And I'm working on a new site, and I've got the code in the header. I've submitted my that link to Google to crawl, but there's no, it used to be you'd get a message, hey, we received your, you knew that you successfully submitted it, and at this point you're just like, okay, come on. Here I am. I hope they find me.
Didn't they say that if you go to that podcast producer tool page or whatever, where you can check it, it actually is kind of telling them this is a feed I want, quote unquote, submitted. I think it does ping them sort of. I thought he said that. The product manager.
I don't remember if he said that. I think I theorized.
I know. I think I heard it again from like a source where I was like, oh, what we heard earlier, what we theorized earlier is a thing. It might be the case. I don't know. Whatever. Go do it.
So is this going to bring about? I don't know if I dare ask this, but is this going to be the new Twitter bombing?
Right.
Submit 1,000 feeds to Google with Lady Gaga naked is the term or something, and then people download your shows
there's going to be all kinds of problems. I think Greenlee brought this up on New Media Show, where there's going to be a definite rush of gaming the system, of keyword stuffing, right? Yeah. Where like, how do they, if they're going to surface a podcast on a subject, how do they give the right one the right authority, right? I mean, if it's a podcast on podcasting, I mean, you definitely could game that, right? Who should be the one that shows up for that, and how are you going to measure that? I mean, it's going to be open, but you would think if anyone could hopefully figure it out quickly. I mean, they should already kind of have it figured out via search. So who knows? But yeah, it's it always opens up a new, I mean, YouTube's still figuring things out like that. So, and that system is pretty well, you would think, pretty well honed at this point. But even like the copyright, the new system that YouTube hasn't even, they've just barely started rolling out, where people are re-uploading other people's videos. That's been a problem forever. And now they're having this match where if you are the first person to upload owns the content, right? And so I total sidebar, but this was really interesting to me, is that someone was streaming live on Facebook. Someone was screen capturing it. I think it was H3, and uploading it to YouTube immediately after the stream before they could get their version on YouTube. So that person who's stealing it essentially is, in theory, according to YouTube, the content owner. Well, they switched their live streaming platform. This is probably a play for Google. Now live streaming on Google, like we're doing right now, this makes us in real time the official first person to put this out. Like if someone then took the Roundtable and uploaded it, it would be caught. I could claim, hey, take that down. That's clearly not theirs. It's ours. So, with feeds, are they going to be able to say, this person, like Daniel, like you said, like an email, it's there, right? It's verifiable that it's mine. And will there be like copyright claims where we could say, hey, whether it's someone who's using it who they shouldn't be, like a Castbox type thing, you're saying that's not the right one, you got to take that down. I don't know. There will be, this is something we're going to deal with forever, right? New systems come out and people will trick them, and we got to figure out how to get around them.
Did I freeze?
Nope.
Huh.
You
Okay.
just started talking. Oh no, yeah, you did.
No,
freeze.
he is frozen.
Yeah. We'll use that as a
Deep
thumbnail.
thought.
It's a very contemplative look there.
Glad I could help.
I was waiting for a very intense statement to come out of your mouth, and it's not coming. All right. Yeah,
Should I reboot? What should I do?
it's good. We're about to wrap up, so you're
Okay.
good. Paul is actually a bot. Paul's not real, and it's been exposed. So, all right, you guys. Well, hey, we are right at the hour mark. I don't know if anyone, Dave, if you saw anything in the comments that definitely should be brought up. Let me know. There's definitely some good conversation. We have this issue.
Yeah, the update on the issue. SB did a 301 and it did work as expected. So you have a duplicate feed, you can redirect it to the actual feed.
Assuming you know what all that means.
Yeah.
And how to do it. So right now for the nerds, things are mostly okay. For the general user, we're going to need Google to fix their problems. Most likely. All right. Well, hey, as we head out, let us know where you can find your podcast. And thanks for joining us for another round. Everyone in the chat. We have two chats. I mean, it's kind of unavoidable. We'll be doing live on YouTube and live in the chat room. So thanks to everyone who's in both places. I do see them both now. So that's cool. Actually, Timothy's in both. So, hey, he's a super chatter. I could turn on super chat. We talked about Alexa. Oops, sorry. See, it is impossible. It's impossible not to say it. Donations, but super chat, another way to get donations. And that does work. So the person in a box thing. Does the A word, is there a male version? Can you actually select, because everyone just says the woman in a box. Is that only available in female voice?
No.
Dave?
You got new voices now.
Oh, new voices now.
And you can also set it, there's other activation words. You can actually do computer. If you want to be all Star Trek, you could say, hey, computer, please do this. And there's some stuff you can do in the settings.
So that's a good solution for people who are having that issue that we talked about, right? Where you listen to a lot of tech podcasts where they bring it up all the time. Yeah. Switch the word for sure.
Yeah, but not to computer. If you go to
not
if you think Alexa goes off a lot, I just did it. Wait till you turn it to computer and see what happens.
Pro tip: use two words that aren't part of natural speech.
I think I'm hearing an echo. That's one of the other code words.
Nice. All right. Well, hey, Daniel, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I really have to wonder how many times is the woman in the tube, the box, the whatever, actually being activated? I hear a lot of people complain or say, hey, don't say her name. But I've played things through my own speakers at home that say her name and she doesn't wake up.
Yeah. Someone in the chat just asked us not to do it. So,
well, yeah, I didn't. I wanted to ask them that. But anyway, I'm Daniel J. Lewis from the audacitytopodcast.com.
Awesome. And Jonathan, thanks for joining us. Not new rounds for your second roundtable.
Thank you for having me. It's always a fun. I listen to the show, and actually, I listen to all of your shows. So see, I found all your shows through this show.
Nice.
I think I found Daniel's first. But yeah, I listen to all your shows.
Nice.
And-
Thanks. I mean, so that shows you. I mean, he didn't exchange one for the other. So can we just all get along? What's the phrase? Anyways.
And each of you bring a different perspective, and that's what I like.
Very cool. Thanks. Where can we find your podcast so we can go listen to that?
You can find me at weeklyawesome.com. Mainly gaming shows, but I have an inspirational podcast as well. So I have about 6 podcasts. Only 3 are weekly.
Nice. All right. Well, choose the one you like. Start there. It's always a good entry point. Dave Jackson, thanks, of course, for always joining us. Dave always does such a good job of including these links that we're talking about. So we've switched this format in the chat. So another cool reason to be here live. Lots of conversation, and Dave's going to always give you the link. I think that's you, Dave, right? Is that you putting the links?
Yeah, a lot of
Okay,
time.
I thought so. I'm not sure why I'd assumed that, but it is Dave. And yeah, podcastersroundtable.com/live. Join us live. Anyways, it's just fun. But Dave, thanks.
Yeah, Dave Jackson from schoolofpodcasting.com. Glad to be here. Another fun round under our belt.
That's right. 113, climbing the charts. Paul, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. I'm sure we'll see you again. Unless, of course, this is your 9th, and then it was great.
Well, thank you. I'm the host of the Kind of Sad That I Can't See Dave Jackson Get Inducted in the Hall of Fame on Monday podcast. Congratulations, Dave. We're rooting for you, even if we're not there. Couldn't happen to a better guy.
Thank you, sir. I'm not sure how, but I've heard rumors it's going to be streamed live. I don't know how. I heard somebody say, I'm streaming it live, and I'm like, I don't know if that's possible, but
even if it's covert, you've got my number. Text me. I want to watch
yeah.
it.
It's pretty streaming live to the internet. It's pretty easy these days, Dave.
Yeah, I'm thinking of, Facebook Live, something.
Hold up phone.
Well, remember last year they archived the entire thing in 480p. And funny enough, I think it's the only time in the history of Callie Lewis's online career where she's been hosted online in 480p.
If you watch on a phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, you'd think sponsors want as much connection as possible, but oh well.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, no, super congrats, Dave. Actually, in my brain, it already happened. So that's amazing. I also won't be there, but super congrats. I'm sure we will see stuff come out of there from that. And have fun, everyone, going to the podcast movement. Philly's awesome. So definitely have fun. All right. Podcasteroundtable.com. I just clicked my tongue. That's terrible. I always try not to do that. I'm not editing that out. So sorry, audio listeners. Maybe I will if I can remember. Mark that. Daniel, I saw a mixed pre-marker thing update in the chat. So markers going off in my head. All right. Podcastersroundtable.com /guest if you want to join us. We'll see you next time for round 14. Wave goodbye. We're out of here. Thanks.